Suicide is the third leading cause of death for teens. It nearly always begins with depression. Someone suffering from depression is as much as 12 times more likely to commit suicide than someone who is not. More than 66% of depressed teens never receive help, even though 80% of them could have been successfully treated. 5,000 teenagers commit suicide every year.
I had once wondered whether I should live or not. Why did everyone hate me? What did I do wrong? I tried so hard to be someone, but it just wasn't possible. Every day was a routine. It never changed. I would go to school, but I was never really there. I knew that no one would notice if I disappeared. I was always jealous of people who had friends. I had a friend once, a best friend I'd known for years, but like everyone else, she left me. She couldn't stand my new personality. That's when I really felt alone. I had no one left, and I withdrew from everyone. After that, I never talked to anyone at school, though they still bullied me. They pushed and mocked me and sent texts with hurtful messages. Every day I felt smaller and smaller. I felt so useless, so numb. I wanted to feel the pain. That's when I started to cut myself. At first, it was only seldom, but it got more and more frequent. Whenever I felt really sad, I would go to the restroom, take out a pair of scissors, and cut until I felt satisfied. It felt like my nightmares would leave me, but I knew it wasn't true. I tried to remember where it all started, and it went back to my mother's death. My mother was a kind, beautiful woman, and I looked up to her. But the day she got into the car accident, everything fell apart. My father began drinking more often and coming home drunk. He would yell at me and hit me. Was that my punishment? I was slowly shattering, and I felt so hopeless. I was always exhausted during school. Nightmares of disgusting memories haunted me every night. At first, I was conscious of the dark circles forming around my eyes. As time went on, though, I just stopped caring. Teachers, particularly one, Mrs. Scott, would ask me about the shadows under my eyes, but I would dismiss them. I don't know why, but when someone talked to me, when anyone talked to me, it was like a mosquito buzzing in my ear. I would get so irritated and would snap at anyone who approached me. It wasn't just my sleeping that changed. Small details about me, ultimately my whole self, was slowly reforming. Eventually, I couldn't recognize the face in the mirror. The most noticeable change in my physical self was my getting thinner. I couldn't bring myself to eat a full meal. I didn't have the appetite, and everything tasted like dirt. Before my mom's death, I had been an active person. I was in volleyball and art, but after it happened, it was just too depressing. My talent had disappeared. I didn't have the energy or the desire to continue. I think I was at my worst when I started the drugs. They took my mind off things, of course, but it only went downhill. They got so addicting and I just couldn't stop. I felt disgusting. I hated myself inside and out. Nothing would take the feelings away. I was a loser, a junkie, I had no friends, and no one at school could stand me. My life was a meaningless hole, so why continue to live it? Wouldn't it be easier for me, for everyone, if I just went away? Just to disappear? No one would notice if I was gone anyway. I started thinking of to whom my things would go to after I was gone. There was really only one person who had been nice to me, one good person, my neighbor, Mrs. Carlson. I gathered my things, the things I cherished most, and gave them to her. Why keep these things lying around collecting dust? I wrote a will for the rest of my things. I was ready to end it. I had nothing left in life, but maybe death could be better. I had a plan to end it with my father's gun, and I know I would have, if not for Mrs. Scott. She stopped me one day before school, when I was at my lowest, and confronted me. I guess she had figured out what I was going through. She told me that everything would be okay, and that she would help me. I was taken out of my father's custody and began going to a psychologist. After going through all that, I finally felt at ease. The terrible feelings went away, slowly but surely. I stopped cutting myself and even made new friends. I knew that if it wasn't for Mrs. Scott, I'd be dead, buried 6 feet in the ground. I'm so grateful to be alive and to have people who care for me.
If you know someone who is suicidal, don't ignore the signs. Ask them if they are contemplating suicide. Don't feel like you need to know all the answers. Encourage them to talk about their feelings and communicate hope back to them. Don't try to handle the situation by yourself, and seek out someone who can help. My name is Macy, and I am a survivor.